Hello everyone and welcome into the WJHI studios with our Jeffersonville Wrestling Show. I'm Clay Abels and joining me our head coach of Jeffersonville Wrestling, Danny Struck. And as I've mentioned here before, we talked last year about how you got to Jeff High, but now this is a big day. Looking forward to you. I know it didn't happen just today, but to mention it today, you are now the longest tenured coach at Jeff High and apparently at all of Greater Clark County schools. And I would ask how you're feeling, but from my vantage point, I see an ice pack on the back of your back here. So you are, dude, you're getting old, man. What's going on? I thought you're supposed to be the young guy.
I honestly looked into your camera here and was like, can they see I'm icing myself? I've had 13,
Shows you're working out, man. You're still going.
13 surgeries. I'm not trying to catch the number of surgeries with numbers of years, but I do got my next MRI already scheduled.
Wow.
I love sports. I love what I do at Jeff High. I don't know if my body was made for it. I think my heart and my brain were. But yeah, no, I've heard that I'm the longest tenured coach here in the school corporation. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Well, you got to be. You're doing well, clearly. You know.
You got to have some success
Right.
if you stay around long enough.
Yeah.
So either I think I'm the old guy that, man, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's just been here forever. Or to someone else, I'm the old guy that has some experience. And I feel both those come at me sometimes. So I'm glad somebody's taken notice. And overall, obviously, it's been a good thing, or we all would leave, right? It's a good place to be.
Did you ever think you'd be coached this long when you first started? Did you ever think you'd be 20 plus years of coaching and all that?
Silly quote, right? Lots of people my age start saying, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. But I do, I tell my students I have the greatest job in the world. When they think I'm mad, I tell them, like, I'm mad for you. I know you could have won that game. I saw you could have done a little better if we were a little bit stronger. And I'm not mad at you. I want to get better with you. I got the greatest job in the world. I get here this morning. I got here at 6:15. I had a 45-minute wrestling practice. At 7:05, I was in Mr. Hatton's office for a meeting. At 7:45 to lunchtime, I did weightlifting. At lunch, I interviewed the Bellarmine head wrestling coach. Went back to 3 more hours of weightlifting. Now I'll go to 2 hours of wrestling. And so I get like a 12-hour day every day of the most fun a person can have. When I first moved here, did I think I would stay here? No, Jeffersonville was not the same. Miss Hall is an awesome principal for us. She wasn't here yet. Our school administration was not here yet. Again, I'm the longest one. Downtown Spring Street, Mr. Mayor Moore was not our mayor. Like, it did not look like this. And my first year here, I was in a 1-year stay, right? And the Yum Center wasn't built yet over there. Louisville's different, Jeffersonville's different. And every time we keep getting a little better, it's like, hey, you know what, another year. Eventually it'll be 40 years for me. And
Wow.
I'm 21, but every year keeps getting better, and that's kind of an awesome thing. I don't know that everybody can say about their job.
Now, I know you talk about experiences and all the things you've done. That transitioned us well into our next topic here. You've had a lot of success lately, especially here over the last few weeks. You spent time overseas, Pan Am Games, you're coaching over there. Tell me, what was that experience like? I mean, you're working with some of the best athletes in the world. I know you had a lot of fun over there. Tell me, let's start with this. How did that whole experience come about? How did you get the opportunity?
Quick answer is they have a coaches pool, USA Wrestling, who is the governing body for wrestling for the Olympic Committee, looks at that because this is the future Olympians, and they select you. So I'm very honored. It is different than what I do with our high school kids.
That's a cool photo right there.
I got to keep my back against the ice. You see the photo, there's kids, the top kid up there, he's from Florida. This bottom little guy right here, Jensen Boyd, he's from, he goes to Delta High School in Indiana. He'll be a freshman. Then you got 3 California kids up there. And all the guys, not me, are actually their high school or personal coaches. So me and Joe Usalini up there in the top right were the 2 selected coaches. And we got to go lead that team. So like how that works is I'd be in the corner every time. Maybe their high school coach or their personal coach would be in the corner. But that was my 3rd time doing the Pan Ams. I've been there, Cuba, Brazil. And it's really cool to do that age group because I think the last Olympics, I could count 6 Olympians that when they were 15 years old, I coached. And now that I'm kind of the veteran of that trip, I even tell these kids when they're like, how did I do? And I'm like, well, you wrestled like this kid who is now an Olympian. You wrestled like, the girls, Tamara Mensah-Stock, who is now was a gold medalist in the Olympics. And It's neat to be able to see that coming in kids. My first time ever coaching one of those teams, I'm still staring at it, kind of in awe of those kids that you get to like one day see amazing things from. We'll get to this Dan Gable thing in a minute. But I was 25 years old and I got picked to do a World Championships for kids 23 and under. You had to be enrolled in a university. And I was younger. You had to be 26 or younger. So I was 25 and some of the people on the team were 26. And we went to Istanbul. And I was kind of scared I'd never get invited back to do a trip because like I'm 25, I'm inexperienced, and these guys are Olympians at that point. They're 26 years old and in the World Championships. And since then, I've been asked to go to 2 more World Championships and 3 more Pan Am Games. So in Turkey, Serbia, Cuba, Colombia, Brazil, and I think Hungary.
Wow.
So, pretty cool. So I've been to Hungary twice. You see this picture here? That's Hungary in the bottom right corner. A kid in class, I was kind of proud of him, said, "Is that the Iraq flag?" I'm like, "No, there'd be a symbol in the middle of that." That's the Hungarian flag. A lot of people use those colors. But this summer we took our kids to Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, Kentucky, North Dakota, Indiana, and Hungary. And that's kind of become our slogan, is see the world through wrestling. That last picture was us at Carver Hawkeye Arena. Mr. Dench must be listening. And actually this was pretty cool. Tom Brands, the head coach of Iowa Wrestling, walks out. He's an Olympic gold medalist, and he's kind of short. Looks like a little bit like Popeye. I hate to say it. I think he's probably been called it in his life before, and he happened to be walking out, and he's kind of the epitome of do the right thing and act the right way, and it was kind of neat for him to be walking out at the same time. So our kids get to meet some really cool heroes through our Jeff Wrestling program. They get to travel the world through our Jeff Wrestling program. We left from here actually and went to Field of Dreams.
Yes.
And they were so mad. They were like, you've seen the movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Not one kid in that group had seen the movie, and we're driving down the road, and they're like, why are we doing this? Because they can now all see their GPS to see we're going the wrong direction from home, and it's going to take 7 hours instead of 6 hours to get home. And I'm like, your parents will be happy. Your parents will be happy. So I said,
that's a destination site.
We get there, and they all understand now. And you build it, they will come.
Yes.
We're now using as our team slogan for the new pool, weight room, and
wrestling. Who knew Kevin Costner would have such an impact on Jefferson Wrestling?
Maybe we can get Kevin Costner to come in and do a commercial for you build it, they will come to our new facility.
Let's have to make some calls. And we're going to talk about the facility down the road. But I want to ask you today, when we're keeping on the topic of the Pan Am Games, tell me, let's start with the wrestling side. What were some of the cool experiences you got? I know you said, you had a lot of success over there, a lot of gold medals. Tell me what was some of the cool experiences from the wrestling side that you enjoyed?
From the wrestling side that I enjoyed, there can't be anything cooler than hearing your national anthem in another country. And, people could we're a free country, treat that national anthem the way they see fit. But I think if you're overseas and you see the flag being lowered down behind this person likely crying as they're holding up their gold medal or biting it in their teeth, it's a pretty moving experience. And so you see all these guys in this group, they all wrestled freestyle wrestling, they all wrestled Greco-Roman wrestling, 2 different Olympic styles of wrestling. And between that group of wrestlers, we got to hear the national anthem 17 times out of 20 different events. Then the girls team was there. They won 9 of the 10, I believe. So hearing the national anthem 26 to 28 times, I'm doing the math, was pretty awesome. And you're realizing when you're in another country, and I'm saying this biased, of course, I'm in America. We live in the best country in the world, and we complain about a lot of things, but when we go overseas, we dominate things. And we should be proud of that. We should be humble about it. Some of those other countries, the opportunity to give a kid nicer wrestling shoes than they could ever get in their own country is, I usually carry a bag of wrestling shoes over. We usually carry some singlets over, things like that. Very humbling, but very awesome at the same time, because, it's, I don't know, in here, if one of my kids has to wrestle a Pennsylvania kid, that's a wrestling state. Oh man, I have the Pennsylvania kid. It's kind of cool to be in another country and just know they fear you on the mat because you're America. You must be good. You must work hard. You must be strong. You must have a good blue collar work ethic. And it's pretty awesome.
Now, when not to cut you off on that, but
No,
I have to know, because you toured some pretty cool places over there. I know you mentioned previously all the Pan Am places you've been to, but when you were over there, I know specifically you spent a lot of time in Colombia. What was that like? What sights stood out to you? What was fun? So there you are hiking, by the way.
I made sure on that hike I had a Jeff High hat on.
There you go.
That's Jimmy Medeiros. He's one of the high school coaches. I wasn't considered a high school coach on this trip. I'm like the USA wrestling coach. He's that kid, Henry. It's an Armenian last name. I don't want to get it wrong on television. And his dad actually rushed for Armenia back when it was Russia. So it's cool hearing those experiences. But we're standing at the top of Mount Gaupe. Guipte. I can't ever say it right. I never learned.
You're doing it better than I would.
5 days, I never got Spanish down. I got Baños, I think, is bathroom.
Okay.
I definitely was saying thank you. Even like you'd walk in a room and I'd just be like, I already forgot how to say it. But anyway, we're at the top of this mountain. It was probably 1,200 steps up, straight up. It was kind of a fire escape looking thing to get you to the top, and that was the view. It was an hour, and we had a 6-hour gap or a 5-hour gap to get from practice to this and back. So the rest of the team, I've been in this situation many times, 25 different countries, where they said you got 5 hours, and everybody says I'm going to go back to the hotel, and I say, man, guys, I'm telling you, as you get older, you'll regret this. And so we paid a cab, 44 something, which comes out to $12.
Not a bad deal.
And for a 6-hour ride, you can't get an Uber to the Yum Center from here for $12 So they waited for us. They had drinks for us.
Wow.
And we go to the top. And on the way home, we get stopped by the police. And this is Colombian police, right? He has I'm guessing an automatic rifle. I'm kind of not really a gun guy. And he asked him to step out of the car. And Coach Jimmy here says, they can't take Henry out of the car. And I kind of, it's like, they're Colombian police. They can
yes,
do
they
whatever
can.
they want. We'll do something if they do something wrong to Henry. And so they search him, and and Henry handled it super well. They asked to see inside his fanny pack and all that. They looked at my portfolio like this, staring into my eyes, never looking at my passport. And we went on our way. But for a minute, it was scary because I'm sitting there wondering, like, how do you handle this situation?
I'm glad they didn't turn like the Bobby Knight Olympic situation with Puerto Rico back in the day. I didn't see Coach Struck get into a wrestling match with a police officer. I don't think that would have gone well.
I read that in one of Bob Knight's books. This is probably terrible to say on Jeff TV. I've never been in trouble in another country, but I have been stopped by police in Beijing, Mexico, New Zealand, Australia. Like you try not to always wear your American stuff.
Oh, really? Okay.
But you get pulled over. So like I was taking Jeff High kids to Mongolia 10 years ago, and our flight landed late in Beijing, and there's one flight to Mongolia a day, and we think, oh, not a big deal. Well, instantly you're Americans without a visa in a communist country. Yeah. And you're suddenly in a room with no pictures and a desk and the guy behind it, just like the movies. And they ended up giving us a 12-hour visa. And I got a whole long story there where I had to throw a moped and...
Oh, geez.
Yeah, like because then they tried to block the buses because they want you to miss the visa so that you have to pay the money to get in. It's crazy. And every time you go to another country, whenever the 2 times I've been to Istanbul, one time they actually flew us to the Pentagon because this was immediately post 9/11. Oh wow! And we had debriefing of how to act in a Middle Eastern country, and so. Got to see the Pentagon, right? The inside of the Pentagon. So it's always a crazy, awesome story. And when kids are traveling just for sports, I think it's sad. I think sports is what gets you there. And then you see the world through wrestling.
You're really not selling this whole field trip policy.
Oh, man. It's awesome.
I'm just messing with you. That's incredible.
The things we get to do, I'm just making jokes. I hope we don't have to edit any of this.
No. That's incredible, though, because you talk about people I don't think realize, you especially going overseas through wrestling and all that type of stuff. Like, there's so much that goes into it to make it happen. And that's, like I said, that's another crazy situation. We'll leave the Mongolia story out.
Mongolia
we'll go on that another day.
Best, most humble country I've ever been to. And we have 3% Mongolian kids at Jeffersonville. Last time I looked it up at Jeffersonville High School, which is a larger percentage than the entire world.
Wow. So, you are like a history major, man. You got it all down.
I was at one time. I'm old, right? My former life, a history geography teacher, which probably gets the love for it. But in Jeffersonville, we're 3% Mongolian. The world is less than 1%. So to be kids from Jeffersonville that saw Mongolia, there's a better chance that a Jeff kid saw Mongolia than a kid from Mongolia in Jeffersonville, meaning like they're usually a descendant,
Right.
not
Man.
there. So that was probably the coolest thing, because it's like going back in time. They still ride horses, still drive buggies, and hundreds of miles between houses, and it was pretty awesome, like being in National Geographic.
The last time I asked you on Pan Am, for this experience for you, we talked about locations, the great moments in wrestling. For you, have coached and still do some great wrestlers here at Jeff, but you're talking about the elite of elite, and proven not just in this country but across the world for what you all accomplished. What was it like to coach that level of talent?
Oh, that's a good question. I was trying to tell all my weightlifting classes, and like that's what I say. Sometimes I'm the old man, and sometimes I'm the old man with experience. And hopefully the kids listen to the old man with experience. And the three things I was telling my classes that I noticed in all those kids was their warm up, their cool down, and their body language. And those might seem like little things, but I'm looking at these kids' faces, and when something went wrong, you never knew it. If you were the general person watching it, like if you were aunt and uncle and you never saw a wrestling match, but my kid's in another country and they tune in, you would know whether they were winning or losing based off their body language. They act like they've been there. I had a kid, one moment, was losing, and in international wrestling, you throw a foam brick. So he's in a red singlet, we throw a red brick. They know the red team is protesting. And after the match, he was down by about 5, and he comes back and wins it. I go, what were you thinking while I was arguing that? And he goes, well, you got me the time to instantly say I'm down by 5. What do I got to do? And we won the protest. He never ended up going down by 5. But his thought was, he says he teaches himself, we're going to fail this protest. What do I have to do to come back? And a lot of kids, I think that's an American thing, maybe like we're throwing a fit, hey, coach needs to argue this, coach has to get my back. And in his mind, it was just, coach is buying me the time to figure out what I need to do, because I'm going to lose this. And I just thought that was awesome. And that's, what a kid that is just won 2 continents national championships all at once was thinking. Their warm-up, I'd walk into a room, I didn't have to ask kids to, why are you wearing flip-flops for an athletic event? Why are you wearing Crocs for an athletic event? They were dressed, they were ready. I know that sounds simple, but today's kids a lot of times are dressing in flip-flops, Crocs, you see it, and they think we're being mean. The best walked in ready. I didn't ask them to warm up. They were sweating when practice started or the meet started, and then after it, a lot of times we have to push kids to do some stretching or things like that. They all would find a corner and do it on their own, and the self-direction that they have and the determination they have to get like those 3 things done, to act like I've been there, to warm up and cool down, so that no matter where I'm at in the world's my home. I'm not in an away event. I'm at an event, a home event at all times. I thought was kind of an awesome thing.
Now, I know we spent a lot of time talking about Pan Am. I know you got to get ready for practice here, but talk to me about your Jeff team here, looking at the early part of the season with Jeff Wrestling, trying to follow it up, another sectional title last season. Tell me as a coach, when you look at the beginning of the season, what are some of the things that you look at overall with your team and say, okay, here's what we need to take care of early so we can be successful late? But what do you look at early in the season as a coach that you say, okay, this is important?
The first thing I do is I go to my phone and I got a list and I type in changes for 2022-23. And I already have that listed. So I'm constantly going in and said, hey, did I call the referees early? Did I start preseason earlier? Whatever the things were, I wrote down, and I make sure I don't get things wrong twice. Some things are for me, some things for the whole team. If I have a kid, I was counting it up since I talked to you earlier, I think we have 9 seniors. I'll use kids' names even if they're in the program, because I won't let them repeat the same mistake next year. Hey, Josh, I'm making up a name, at this tournament last year, here's how your week looked before it. We're not repeating that week. Or if it looked good, we're repeating it. And I got those notes. They go in order because you just type them in order. So I always tell coaches when they say, hey, what do you do to not repeat mistakes? I say, you keep a list on your phone, and when you type in change this, it's already there. So what are some changes we made? Winter break, we're going to go to a new tournament, Woodford County, Kentucky. For those that don't know about that, there was just an NCAA champion from that town. Nate Carr was a national champ for Iowa State. His dad and grandpa were national champs. I think both were. The Carr brothers are kind of famous. Mr. Dench would probably have a whole historical rundown of them.
That's why I'm not hosting.
Rolling his eyes at me right now. But so anyway, we're going to go there, and we're going to take both our A and our B team and enter 2 teams into this 2-day tournament. I think that's something unique about Jeffersonville Wrestling is we have so many kids. If you come out for Jeff Wrestling, the top 28 letter, or sometimes more if somebody's sick, because we run 2 14-man teams. And if you're the best kid on our team, you wrestle all the Indiana, Ohio, Illinois schedule. And being local to Kentucky, we send the second tier there. And by the time, if you're a freshman, sophomore, you hit your junior, senior year, and people on other teams are saying, well, he's never been on varsity. Our kids have been on varsity, wrestling in sometimes simultaneous tournaments with our varsity, and I think that's unique to what we do. Wrestling allows that. Obviously, like football, you couldn't really do that, but being that we can in wrestling, we do it. We'll do our famous milk and cookies practice December 23rd. It's just something our alumni come back to, things like that. My reason I bring that up is I'm just running through all the things in our heads our kids like to do. Every kid on our team will do one varsity or one meet with the varsity where they get to go on an overnight and stay in a hotel room. So this weekend we're in Indianapolis. We have Franklin on Friday. We have Parameridian tournament on Saturday. Our girls will go with us on Friday. They'll wrestle Parameridian. On Saturday they'll travel to Jennings County. Our junior varsity will meet them in Jennings County. And by the end of this first weekend, every kid's going to probably have wrestled 6 matches. Next week, we'll bring Columbus North and Corden here, what we call a turkey tussle. You guys will be showing it. Then the next weekend, we hit another overnight. We go to, we're here December 2nd and 3rd, or 3rd and 4th, in 2 gyms simultaneously. But our B team will be over in Kentucky. 3rd weekend of the year, we take a team to Evansville. 2 teams to Evansville, so now our junior varsity gets to spend the night with our varsity at a meet. And we just keep going like that all year till every kid has the chance of the overnight, being able to see a different town. I think some people think travel has to be overseas.
Right.
For many of our kids in Jeffersonville, or depending on their families, like Indianapolis is a city they've never seen. You know, we have Louisville there. You don't have to go to Indianapolis. So if you're a wrestler on our team, you'll go to Evansville at some point and see the Ford Stadium, and if you're a varsity, you'll be able to end up in Indianapolis, and we'll take you to Bankers Life Fieldhouse where the Pacers play, and a lot of years we'll run by the NCAA Hall of Fame, and we try to, again, I'll say, experience the world through wrestling. Like, we make an event out of the event.
That's awesome. I tell you what, next time you come in here and do a show, I know we want to talk about the facilities going forward, the potential there. But one thing I want to know from you got to track how many miles you had this year. It's going to be through the roof. Whatever that number is, it's through the roof.
At one point, over fall break, I left my house. I drove straight to Missouri. My coaches did a clinic in Missouri, so we drove there. And then I had to be in Florida, went to Florida State University the next day. So I drove from Louisville to Missouri, back to Louisville, back to Florida. I think I could have went cross country, but I just ended up right there. And but wrestling's like that. Wrestling's unique.
Well, you're not even counting your overseas trips. I mean, that's the real miles.
Wrestling's in every country in the world, and it's in 49 states in the United States as a high school sanctioned sport. So when people say, how do you get to travel so much? I coach football. I love football, but football's not in every country. Baseball's not in every country. Basketball's not in every country. Those are our
3 major U.S. sports.
American folk sports,
yes, right?
Wrestling's in every single country, maybe by different rules. Track's in every single country. Boxing's in every single country. It's 3 original Olympic sports. So I think that's one of the things that made me fall in love with wrestling so much is I might even like the travel better than the wrestling. The wrestling is just the thing that gets me to meet a kid and say, let's go travel. So, I think I was counting, we've had 38 Jeff wrestlers go on overseas trips since I've been here. More than 100 on what would we call them, intercontinental trips, or within the 50 states, because Alaska and Hawaii our kids have been to, which is a different cultural experience. But we've had more than 100 kids travel the United States that way through wrestling, not just on our schedule. And I know for a number of our coaches, the little bit of travel they get to do with our kids is important to them too.
That's fantastic. Well, Coach, we're excited to have you in here today and look forward to having you back. Like I said, I know there's a lot to get to, but you got to keep icing up and getting back to practice, man.
We'll pull this off right now. He's not making jokes.
I say he really does have ice with him. He's working hard. That's Coach Danny Struck with us here on our Jeff Wrestling Show. I'm Clay Abels. Thank you for joining us today, talking about the Pan Am Games, talking about Jeff Wrestling, and a whole lot more. For Coach Struck, I'm Clay Abels saying thank you for coming in and watching. Reminder, you can watch the show on Cable 184, along with our WJHI social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For the world traveler, Danny Struck, I'm Clay Abels saying so long and thank you for tuning in. This is 98.5 WJHI LP Jeffersonville, the home of the Red Devil Network.